Can we get the A-frame back again? Let's put it right about here.
Mary Whyte arrived early enough to take Gary Douglas's picture outside by his side before the rain really started coming down. Douglas owns the Highway 50 drive-in.
All right, we're going to cut our music off now. I think it's time to get started with our feature for the night.
The only movie theater left for miles around Lewisburg, Tennessee.
Turn around, you lunatic.
An honest-to-goodness last picture show. Not much different from the way it was in the 1940s.
That's good.
Which is why Mary Whyte is here.
So tell me, how many years have you been married?
43.
Isn't that wonderful that you can say that?
For the last 3.5 years, Whyte has been traveling around the South, painting its endangered species. Holdouts like Gary Douglas, whose way of life is disappearing.
Has anyone ever drawn you before?
This is a first.
This is a first.
Her subjects tend to be people nobody's ever drawn.
It's always because there's a story that I think needs to be told. That all of these people are living a life that I think is unique and important. You want to see?
Mm-hmm. Might as well.
The sketches, the quick watercolors, are just the beginning. Here is the finished painting of Gary Douglas at the Highway 50 drive-in.
Getting a likeness is the easy part. Making a good painting that endures, that speaks forever, you hope, is the difficult part.
This was the first of the pictures. It's called By a Thread. Mary Whyte saw a newspaper article about a mill closure, and one thing led to another, and another, and then another, altogether 50 paintings, with a book to come.
And this is a group of men that, a band that was started in the 20s.
Whyte found one of the South's last funeral bands in Miami.
The oldest member that's still living was in that band in the 20s, and he's, I think, close to 100 now, I'm told.
She pays her subjects a little for their time.
And they came over one by one and leaned up against a tree and played for me.
Whyte's final paintings are watercolor. Yes, the same kind of paint you sloshed all over drawing paper in 2nd grade. Hard to believe.
People often are surprised when they walk into my studio and they say, "This is it?" I mean, it's it. It's basically a plastic tray with the colors around the edges, and you add water to it.
For a couple of months each year, Mary Whyte leaves her home and studio near Charleston, South Carolina. She packs up her art supplies and her radio and moves into this old mill worker's cottage, upstate in the little town of Simpsonville.
It's empty, so it means all I have to look at and think about are my paintings. So all I do is paint and eat and sleep.
Every day, just before noon, she goes next door to the home of Doug and Billy Hogg, her landlords. What she finds is a feast in the making. Doug Hogg was a supervisor at the local textile mill. Like so many others, shut down now. But the routine remains.
Fathers, we gather around this table today. We give you thanks for the many blessings that you bestowed on us each day.
At noontime, on the dot, every day, mill workers' time, Mrs. Hogg serves a colossal, homemade, warm, hot dinner.
As we say, dig in.
It's 3 generations here that meet daily for meals, that all work in the garden, all help to grow the produce in the garden and to raise the bees here.
It was because of their bees that Whyte sought them out in the first place, early on in her project.
We ready?
Doug Hogg and his daughter Jane don't say much as they tend the hives. They don't need to. This is Mary Whyte's painting, The Beekeeper's Daughter.
The wearing of the white, the whiteness of these shapes, this smoke, and the fact that they smoke and they move slowly, to me is dreamy. This painting is called Spinner.
Next March, the Greenville County Museum of Art will exhibit Whyte's work. Many of her completed paintings are being stored there now, in the frames her husband made by hand. They were hung for us to see.
This is Algy Varn, and he has spent his entire life crabbing and oystering, and he was kind enough to take me out onto his boat. That day, about a third of the traps had been poached or vandalized. So I watched this man vacillate that day between anguish, despair, and rage.
The next time she called him, he had gone out of business.
This painting that's right next to it was started in New Orleans, and I wanted to find a shoeshine man. Eventually I found my way to Mr. Noah here, who's in one of the big hotels down on Canal Street. He's been doing this, shining shoes, since he was 5 years old. Everyone I ask, so why do you do this? And they say, because it's all I've ever known.
Near Bishopville, South Carolina, Whyte stopped a cotton picker who could only pose for a minute or two because he had to get back to work. Just down the road at a diner, she met the subjects of the painting she calls 15-minute break.
What they do is they clean industrial ovens. They're tired. For them, this is a 16-hour day. That's what I found so interesting and meaningful and attractive to do this painting, is that I wanted this absolute weariness of these men.
And in The Lovers, it was her Berea, Kentucky quilter's skin that fascinated her.
And the skin has this wonderful translucent quality where you can see, particularly as a person ages, the skin becomes thinner. And I believe that the hands are truly a person's resume of their life.
In Mary Whyte's hands, the resume of a region is brought to life with a plastic tray, some color, and water.